a really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Lord as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is one thing that we must not say. He was trying to prevent people from saying this, saying that, you know, oh, Jesus was just a good teacher, but he was not God. He was not even the Son of God, just a good teacher. He goes on to say he would either be a lunatic on a level with a man that's merely that he's a poached egg, which is, you know, just half cooked, you know, a guy that goes around, you know, he just, you know, half cooked brain, or else he would be the devil of hell. And he concludes his evidence by saying, you must make a choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something else. Let's back this up with a little bit of history. We could quote one of the world's greatest leaders, and that would be Napoleon. He said, in respects to Jesus, I know men, and I tell you that Jesus Christ is not a man. Superficial minds see a resemblance between Christ and the founders of empires and the gods of other religion. That resemblance does not exist. And he goes on to say that he has much more many wonderful things to say about Jesus. Now, if he was a liar, when Jesus made his claims he knew that he was not God, then he was lying. But if he was a liar, then he also was a hypocrite, because he told others to be honest, whatever the cost, while himself teaching a colossal lie. And more than that, he was a demon, because he told others to trust him for their eternal destiny. If he could not back up his claims and knew it, then he was unspeakably evil. Last, he would also be a fool, because it was his claims of being God that led him to his crucifixion. So we have to interject here. We want to conclude in this part that was he a liar? That how many people would die for the religion? There have been many people who have suffered and died for the belief in Jesus Christ. But history tells us that every one of the apostles that followed Jesus suffered a martyr's death, a cruel death. And John was banished. He was exiled to the Isle of Patmos, where he received the revelation of Jesus Christ. But history tells us that he was boiled in oil. So to be a follower of Jesus is not for the weak, and it is for the strong. But Jesus makes you strong. Okay, was he a lunatic? If it is inconceivable for Jesus to be a liar, then could not he actually have thought himself to be God, but been mistaken? After all, it is possible to be sincere and wrong, and he was a very sincere person. But we have to remember that for someone to think that he is God, especially in a culture which is fiercely monotheistic, and then to tell others that their eternal destiny depends upon him, is no slight flight of fantasy, but the thoughts of a lunatic in the fullest sense. Was Jesus Christ such a person? I think not. Now, that leaves us to say that, Lord, who you decide Jesus Christ is must not be an idle intellectual exercise. You cannot put him on the shelf as a great moral teacher. That is not a valid option. He is either liar or lunatic or Lord. You must make a choice. But, as the Apostle John wrote, these have been written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and more important, that you may have life in his name. The evidence is clearly in favor as Jesus as being Lord. However, some people reject the clear evidence because of moral implications cited. It's because of their lifestyle. They're not living an honest moral lifestyle. And so that they cannot accept Jesus as being the Son of God, because that would lead them to have to live a moral life. There needs to be a moral honesty in the above consideration of Jesus as either liar, lunatic, Lord, or God. Now, I think that we have concluded that he is Lord. Now, if we were to go on with this, after the death of Jesus, the rumors started flying around because of an empty tomb. The stone had been rolled away. That was phase one. The tomb was empty, but he was seen of many for 40 days. Okay, now we have to do something with this resurrected Jesus, because he was seen of many. And his ascension was purely seen. So we have to concoct some kind of a scheme. And I can't remember that book, whether it was the Judas something, but someone tried to concoct a scheme to say that when he was on the cross, he just merely passed out and fainted. And they gave him some kind of a drug that would put him in a very deep coma or sleep. And so that when they put him in the tomb, the disciples would come and roll away the stone and take Jesus out and steal him away, and then he would revive back and get well. Duh! Well, we can see through that factor right now. The Roman guards, they had their integrity to keep, because they knew if anyone tampered with the Roman seal, which was on the tomb, they put the Roman seal on that tomb. If that tomb was tampered with by the guards themselves, was certain death. Now those guards, they owed their life to guarding that tomb. I mean, they were going to make sure that nobody come up to that tomb, that nobody stole that body of Jesus away. So that destroys that lie right there. And to say that he was drugged and that later on he revived, that can't be. You ask any doctor, any surgeon about the horrible death that Jesus Christ went to, that they made sure that he had died before they took him down off the cross. He was not breathing. He died of suffocation by merely hanging on the cross like this, and his feet with the nails through them, he had to push up with his feet in order to get breath, which was very painful. And in his weakened state, he had been beaten. He had been whipped. His back had been flayed open. His beard had been plucked out. He had a crown of thorns mashed in his head. He was up all night. He was on trial. He carried a cross on his shoulder. He collapsed under the load. And then at the last, the soldiers took a huge sword and they thrust it into his side to make sure that he was dead. And the Bible tells us that blood and water gushed out of his side, which is a sign that his heart had ruptured, had burst.